As we have seen, we can open files in different modes. We use a built-in function open, and that returns the file object, and here is the signature of a file, a signature of a open function by which we can open a file, and file can be opened in different modes, and typically broadly categorized. There can be two modes, text and binary, and for each mode there are other four different modes: read, write, exclusive, and append. The what is read mode, we have seen that read mode is actually file does not exist, will get an error, and the file has to be there to read. And write mode, it will rewrites the file, overwrites the file, so that if there is a file already, it overwrites the content. But exclusive, it does not. A file is exclusively open for creation, which means that it will fail if the file exists already. So, and append is, as opposed to other modes, append is like it combines both writing and reading. But uh, oh, my bad, append doesn't combine both. Append is actually for a writing, which happens at the end. So as a on the other hand, W mode writes from the beginning, it replaces, whereas append, which means that cursor file pointer or the file position that starts from end of the file, so that whatever you add, which is appended to the file. So that as you can see, plus operation, which is used to combine multiple modes, which means a W plus B, which is a read, write, and a read binary, where W plus is actually write and read in a text mode. So this is we can combine different modes, both writing and reading user using a plus. Uh, so this is what, and what are other parameters here? Buffering, which actually we can specify how much to buffer, and encoding, which is what in which encoding that given the given text is either to write or read from, and a new line and closed file descriptor, and all this we can pass, and they are by default none are true, so we can leave them. But what is necessary is a file path, and we have seen there are two types of ways we can specify the file, is either using absolute path or relative path. And absolute path means from the beginning, from the root folder, whereas relative path is with respect to your current working directory. So, and whereas I'm inside the working directory where I am here. So, and by the way, here if I go and click on run all, so this notebook does not actually, it will run all, and wherever it finds an error, it will stop there. You see, remaining won't execute. So everything will work fine as usual, all cells, and you can see 61, 62, which is just the execution from the beginning. You can see, and so 66x, at the 66th uh, this cell, there is an error because there's our file operation on closed file, so that it won't proceed further. What happens, you have to actually click on this one, you can click on the next cell, and you can actually click, instead of run all below, and that works. So when there is any cell in the middle is having any exception, that further cells won't be executed. Just keep that in mind. And so we have what we did here. So we have seen, we printed that file name, and then current working directory and absolute path and so on. And we have seen here, we took that file object, and we have printed what are different the methods on them. So we have seen already some of the methods: writable, write lines, and write lines just writes the all whatever we give iterator, that writes into the given file object that is open for a writing. And we have seen that any file that is open for a reading, you can't write into that, and any file that is open for writing, you can't, any file that is open for writing, write mode, so you can't read from that. Yeah. So, and we have seen all this, and let's see that what is tell. It tells that file pointer or file position where the think of it as a cursor, and when we open it is initially in a write mode, which is at a 0. And so when you close, and if you close the file, and all of the content that is buffered is written to the disk. But if you don't close the file, and if you are keep on writing, and that whatever you write might not be on a disk because that might be buffered. So to forcefully write though all those bits and all the content that is buffered, we can actually use flush, and such that that content is written on to the disk. And so as we wrote some 24 bytes string, and if we pull up uh, if we see what is the position of that file object, the way it tells that so using the tell method 24, because we wrote 24, and the cursor is here. Okay. And we wrote some other content, and which is making up 79 characters, and if we try to get that position again later, and we can see that that is about if we see that the size which is 78 here. So if we request, and the OS is a module, and OS.stat, and that provides the metadata on size. And so we have opened this in a read text mode, and we are able to read, but I can't write. Write hello, I can't write because it is not writable. And we can check whether any file object is writable or not using this writable method, and readable or not using this readable. And yes, it's a true or false. Yes, yes, yes. And effort.mode, this is attribute. You see that if it is attribute, we would call that one. If it is a method, but it is attribute, so that effort mode, that the file object that mode gives, in which mode that file is actually opened. And now let's see that append mode. So we closed the file already. Let's open. We haven't seen that. We have seen that using file in write mode and read mode, and let's see that in append mode. So what append mode does, for suppose, let's see that if we go here, and we have this Wonder Woman.txt. If I open this, and we have actually all this content here. But if I open that thing again, fa equal to open of what is Wonder txt, and read is write mode. And if I do this and just close this thing, fa dot close, and if I put some content, fa dot write opened in w, and then fa dot close. And if I do that, and let me go here and refresh this thing, and it is all gone, open in w, and this whole file is replaced with the content open in w. Can you see why? I have opened, closed the previous file. I opened here. The key is that I open this in write mode. What we have learned, if you open anything in write mode, so no, here the mode is W. What is a mode? W. So W stands for write mode. What is if you open a file in write mode, so what it does, a file is open for writing, but if file exists, the content is actually replaced or truncated. Existing content is. That is what happened. Okay. So, but if I do so, let's remove this thing. Now if I open the same thing, but I want all of the previous cells to be executed so that file is restored back. So file is restored back, and if I reload this thing, and now I can see all the content because I ran all of previous cells, so that I got this whole content back into the file on disk. See, I reloaded this one. I can see that. Now instead of W, if I open A append mode, and now let's run this one. And first, very first thing, check what is tell is. If you write, if you open a file in either read mode or write mode, the file pointer or file position that points to very first byte in the file, 0. But if now it returns 78, can you see? Because the cursor is placed already at the end of the file. Because whatever you write, that is written from the cursor position. So now here it is 78, can you see? Which is at the end of the file. Such that whatever I write here, I have write lines. Okay, what is write lines? I can send a sequence of strings that those are written as lines, and a empty string, and then let's give something here. Hello. Let's say she is powerful. She is only one of her kind. And now let's write this thing. What is this? Did we make any typo? Yes, this right line says there is no underscore here, so we added underscore. Yes. Now check fa.tell to get new file object position, where which is a 160. And you know that if you actually get this thing, this right lines or right, they return number of bytes that are written. Now if I go and refresh this thing, I won't see that, but I have seen this because right lines actually flushed all the content. If that is buffered, we won't be seeing that. Okay, stay on the page. Since I executed that twice, and we will see this the same content appended twice here. So can you see that what tell gives? It's a current position. The current position of file object or file object or a file pointer. In other languages, it is referred. Basically, one thing actually the and the write lines to write lines. What happens? We can pass as iterator or sequence or generator or sequence can be a list or tuple or anything, and those are returned to the file. And now what we will do, and you have seen this, right? And let's actually change the position. Now let's actually let me rerun whole thing once again. Where is, yeah, now I'll do this, do this, do this. If I open this in append mode, and it is actually that uh, tel gives us actually 79, and surprisingly right line we have to pass the new line manually for this one, even though it says surprise right lines. And now do this tel, go to our file and reload, and you can see all of the content we have here. And so now if I want to write something before hello, or just say after just before welcome, I want to put something here. How to do that? In the file, just after the exclamatory mark, count how many bytes here these are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so how, yes, space is also, yes, yeah, which is 3, 5 and 6, and including space 7. So we want to put our cursor. No, this is a cursor, right? Like we move around our cursor here. So like that, so inside for that position, the pointing position, if you want to move, we have a seek. fa dot seek, and what position? 7. Now I changed that. If I can actually verify that using tel as well. Okay. Now fa dot write, if I write, do we have hello Wonder Woman, welcome to Python. So let's give it here and check, reload, and we don't see anything. Why? Because we need to flush. Remember, the right lines is actually flushing by default, but the right does not flush, which means that it does not write content onto the disk, and it defaults actually whatever is written, that is buffered. Now if I reload, uh, we have here Wonder Woman at the end. And why is that happening? Why? Because there's a catch here. I opened a file for append. Okay, remember, this is very important. If you open a file for append, so now check fa dot check what is tel, which is 331. I change that fa dot seek to 10, and I write some content again, fa dot write, and I put something, to make it yeah, yeah, we flushed, whatever we write, we flush it again. And now if I go and actually do refresh again, that is getting appended, even though the cursor position, we change that position. Why? Because remember, where for append mode, what happens for append mode? For append mode, this is very important, regardless of file object pointer position, regardless of its position, content is appended. Content is appended in a append mode. Yeah, it is append mode. So is it writable? No, we will, yes, let's see that same thing, and if we will seek and we will write. Okay, and let's check, is it writable, readable, append, readable, false. Why? Because the append mode means which is write mode only, but the content is always appended to the file. So, and there is actually other mode called A plus, where so let's close our file, close. Now open this thing, fa plus FAP. Now open uh, wonder woman.txt. Then what is the mode? A plus. And what happens in FA plus dot mode, which is A plus? What happens in if you go FA and a plus dot uh, is it readable? Is it readable? True. And writable? You see, it is readable too and writable too. That is what the plus mode is. Just append mode is, which is for append mode, which is the mode is for a write mode only. A is a write mode only, but content is appended at the end of the file. And here, if it is for A plus, what happens? This is file is open for a reading and writing. But what happens if let's go and read this FA plus? If I read this thing, read how much I can read to read this whatever the method you see here. There are different kind of methods to read, many more methods than actually write, where you can see that read lines, read readable, read line, read lines, where what happens, read lines return gives us the sequence of lines, which provides us iterable. So iterate over lines, where read line just reads a line. So, and a read is a function to which actually we can ask how many bytes to read. Let's read some 64 bytes. And why I don't read anything here? And before I read, what is the position of its cursor? You can see that 139. Because the cursor, that file pointer is at the end of the file. And if I try to read from at the end of the file, I don't get anything. Can you see? Why? Because I haven't done anything. I just opened this and check the mode, which is A plus, and it is both readable and writable. But if I tell the position, which is 139 at the end of the file, the pointer is, or a cursor, think of it as. And if I read anything, I don't get to see anything. Why? Because it is end of the file, nothing to read. So what is takeaway here for A plus mode? By default the cursor for read and cursor for write, which is actually placed in the end of the file. So whatever you read, you don't see anything. But if you actually write anything, let's go here and reload, and we have this greater than. Let's go on the FA plus dot write lines and give here new line and then hashes, just hashes. If I go and reload this thing, where they are added, uh, flush, and we don't see that yet. So let's flush this thing and refresh. And where that whatever new hashes we added here, they are appended to the file. So what is the takeaway? So for this append mode, whatever you file is opened for a file is opened Yes, open for both reading and writing, but but content is added to the end of the file or appended. And another thing, whereas when you read, the file pointer is also for read file, yeah, for read operation, file pointer also points to the end of the file by default. So let's do one thing. Fa dot plus fa plus dot, let's seek this thing, seek to 7. And now let's do fa plus dot read. What happens now? It is giving me when I seek. So the cursor actually the place that seventh byte. Now you see didn't read hello. Why? Because cursor is here. Do you understand? Since cursor I placed at 7, it didn't read the whatever the characters preceded by that cursor, and it is actually read all, yeah, followed by that position, so that I don't get to see hello here, and I see everything else here. Now if I read again, I don't see anything because it is end of the file. Now let's do one thing. Fa dot plus dot, and what you will do here now, seek again, seek to 7, and now fa dot plus dot write. What you will write? New line, and then Shazam. Yeah, let's give this thing Shazam. Okay. And now you see this write returns how many characters are written or bytes. Now fa plus dot flash, and where the position was 7. And now if I plus, yeah, not for read, write. Whatever you read, whatever you write, that is actually, if you want that thing to be reflected immediately, you don't want to have, you don't want to actually, when if you close file, everything that is in a memory will be placed onto the file when file is closed, so that when you actually write, that is buffered in a memory. So we want to see, instead of without closing a file, we want to see that in output, so that what we are doing, we are actually flushing. Now if I reload, where Shazam is added? At the end. At the end. Okay. So fa plus dot tell what is the position is 158. So even though am able to seek to the 7th byte, and if I write, that is always added at the end of the file. But you can actually read the content by seeking to wherever the position. So which means that in append mode, content is always written in either in mode A or A plus. Content is always appended, but when it comes to mode A plus, you can read. Do you understand? While A is write only mode, but append, content is appended to the file. What is your question? Yeah, see, either, yeah, but when it comes to mode A plus, you can read while A is just actually, let me make it a bold. While mode A, which makes more sense. Yeah. So either in mode A, again here, I can hold this thing to make it either in mode A or A plus, content is always appended. But when it comes to mode A plus, you can read. While in a mode A, while mode A is write only, but content is appended to the file. Is it confusing? Here it is. When it comes to mode A plus, you can both read and write. Yes, it makes sense. But while in a mode while mode A is write only, but yes, yes. So this is something in a plus mode you can actually read and write, but you can actually read from pretty much anywhere by seeking. Whereas a seek doesn't affect when you write, because write is always where whatever you write, it doesn't matter where you put that cursor. Always the content is appended, which is append. Where if you can, we have seen write mode, and by using write mode, let's if you open write mode, where is this? Let's see here. We wrote something, and so let's execute. Let's execute. Run all above. I'm restarting. Run all above, and so I ran all cells till this point. Which point? And now go and check what is inside. And hello, welcome to Python. And and now check what is inside. And I have closed that file, and here is the content. And if I rope, that is a thing. Content is always appended. So what is exclusive mode here? What is exclusive mode? Exclusive mode. So here fx equal to, and open off and wonder woman.txt, and mode is, which is newly added. It was not there in previously. So what exclusive mode? It actually gives us an error if file exists. So this mode we can use where we wanted to always actually create a new file. Exclusive write mode, which is it doesn't actually produce, it gives an error if file exists. Whereas W doesn't tell anything. It simply overrides the file. Appends the file content into the file. The where exclusive mode, it is a write mode, but it opens the file. It's open file exclusively, which means that if file exists, we get an error. It's exclusive, opens a file exclusively for creation. So it will fail if file exists. So it will only work if for it's like a write mode, but uh, new file. Okay, if file exists, just it fails. Yes. And we have append a plus mode, sorry, r plus mode r plus. What is r plus? So if I can actually open, yeah, yeah, frp equal to open and wonder woman.txt and what is r plus, which means that I can the file is open for both reading and writing. So you can check that thing using this statement. So whether it is readable or writable. Yes, it is both readable and writable. And where cursor position is frp dot tell, which is by default 0. And we can see what is the content of file. That here is the content of file. She is from Amazon race, and which is end. That is the last. And if I actually put anything here, frp dot and write, and I put some garbage, let's say I put something here, a new line, and frp dot flush. If I do so, can you guess where this content is added, at the end of the file or at the beginning? For read plus mode, which is added at the beginning of the file, because it is open for both readable and writable. The file is opened as both readable and writable, so you can both read from the file as well as write from the file. So, and so according to the this position, file pointer position, where whatever it points to, from where whatever you write is actually written into the file. And what, so now check this file position frp dot tell, which is it wrote 9 characters, so around it is actually 9. So if I wanted to write something in the middle, let's say that here around a she or something, so what I can do, I can actually, but if you frp dot read, it will read from that position only. Let's say that I can seek it to frp dot seek, and let's seek it to 120. Now if I frp dot read, it will read from that position only, where this is 120, frp dot seek, and if we don't give anything, give 0. uh, yeah, here it is. The 120 means probably I have passed beyond the end of the file. So let's give this thing here. Now frp dot read, it won't actually read us anything because it is end of the file. frp dot seek, let's seek it to, let's say that 35. And now if I read or write, and it will read from content from that position only, you see here. And even though if you put that cursor at that if you put that position, if you change the position using seek, and if you place it at 35, and whatever you write, that is not appended, that is written from that point. So each mode has its purpose. So read plus is used absolutely for both reading and writing, but the by default the position is set to 0. That means whatever you write is actually written uh, to the file, as well as the from that position only you can read from the first position only, from 0 byte the position is file pointer position points to. So, and you, if you read, pretty much you will read everything, and if you write, and you will actually adding a new lines in the beginning of the file, new text. Whereas if you take append mode, which pretty much whatever doesn't matter, it is mode A or A plus, and content is added at the end of the file. But what is the advantage with read mode? The file is not overwritten. our content is not truncated. But whereas if you use W mode, the content is truncated, the file content is overwritten. So if file exists, and whereas exclusive mode is like a W, but it will fail if file exists. And so if you want to open a file, the pretty much you want to write anywhere you want, and you want to seek, and you don't want to overwrite the file, and the best mode possibly is actually R plus. And if you want to work with the binary files, all you do is actually here you use modes like R plus B. In exclusive mode, exclusive, which is like a write mode, so we can check that thing here. Whereas you can, because it is a new file, right? Altogether, there is no such a thing as append, because if file exists, yeah, file exists, it fails. That you are exclusively creating a new file here.